Before I start, my name is Alisa Balili and this is my assigned topic, LGBT psychology. LGBT psychology is a field of psychology surrounding the lives of LGBT individuals. So, diri sa LGBT psychology, nakapaloob ang experiences and psychological perspective of an LGBT. Labels. When you heard the word labels, what comes in your mind? So, when we say label, it is what we use to describe a person, a thing, or anything. So, labels are so powerful, it can be used to discriminate and oppress people. Like for example, sa usa ka dalan na ay nilabay na bisexual or gay. Unya gisyagitan kini nga, uy, bayot, bayot, salot, salot, salot. So, the word salot, it is the label that you use to describe a person, and that is discrimination. You don't have to call a person salot because salot is an hurtful word. Labels can be empower people to claim their space in our society, especially in the political sphere. Example, in political sphere, if that certain people has the rank or label in our society, that person has the power or authority to mandate or discriminate the person or people. Language can be used to avoid offense or disadvantage to a certain group of people. Like for example, instead of disabled, they use person with disabilities. Instead of blacks, they use African American. Instead of homosexuals, they use LGBT. So through language, we can have and defend our human rights. Views on LGBT in history. Sexual and emotional attraction towards the same sex has been recorded throughout history of mankind. So, this picture is the pleasure of the beaten pitch, that in China's culture, one of term for the homosexuality is called the beaten pitch or the pleasure of the beaten pitch, because when people speak of male love, one of the names they give is the pleasure of the beaten pitch, and also it is a symbol still used to signify love between men and China. Also, second picture, we have Shudo or Nanshoku. It is the Japanese practice of manly love or homosexuality, and it is all the samurai got together in the castle and practiced Shudo with each other. Third picture, we have Katui. Is used in Thailand to refer the lady boys. So, it is an identity used by some people in Thailand whose identity may be best described as transgender women in some cases, or effeminate or manly gay in other cases. So the last picture, we have the Babaylan or Katalunan. In the Philippines, we have the Babaylan and the Katalunan, who were mostly women pressed, but some are males who live their lives as a woman. So during the rituals, when men performed rituals as Babaylans or Katalunans, they wear women's clothing or a mixtures of men and women's clothes. Because of their lack of fertility, it gives them greater freedom of younger womanhood. Society attitude towards homosexual and other gender variant changed through history. In much the same way, attitudes towards homosexual are dynamic. They are moving towards greater acceptance in some parts of the world, while in others there is pushback against this diversity. In ancient Greek, all males are expected to take the younger male lover na practice of pederasty. So when we say pederasty, it is a sexual relationship between a man and a boy. So in ancient Greek, pederasties relationship were the most common type of homosexual relationship, and it was between an adult male over the age of 20 and a younger male. And they called it free relationship. Some societies like the indigenous Native Americans accepted and celebrated what they called two-spirited person in a dance to the Berdaki. When we say two-spirited, it is the movement to Native American tradition that they recognize more than two gender, and Berdaki is skip boy. Because two-spirited people were respected by Native society not only due to religious attitudes but also because of practical concerns. Because Native Americans, their gender roles involve a mixture of both masculine and feminine traits. Two-spirit person could do both the work of men and women. However, later culture see it as a sin, following the Abrahamic religion which branded it as sodomy, a crime against nature. Because as the Abrahamic religion have traditionally forbidding sodomy, believing and teaching that such behavior is sinful. As this culture colonized other countries, it enforced its belief system of viewing same-sex attraction as a sin through violence such as killing homosexual through burning, stoning, or being fed to the dogs. It's because during the medieval and early modern period, the penalty for sodomy was usually death. Ang penalty ko no is death. Homosexual is classified as an illness in the 19th century as a basis for them to legally persecute homosexual, imprison, and commit them to a mental institution. Because homosexual, especially same-sex relationship between men, was considered deviant, sinful, and even criminal for centuries because they considered it as an abnormal. They labeled same-sex desire in medical terms and started looking for ways to reverse it. For example, Alan Turing was the father of modern computing, who was prosecuted in 1952 for homosexual act. He was sentenced with chemical castration treatment and he later died through cyanide poisoning. So, Alan Turing in 1952, he was arrested for having a relationship with Arnold Murray and as homosexuality because that time it was illegal and he was criminally convicted and harshly treated under the UK homophobic law. As science advanced through years of extensive research, the EPA removed homosexuality as a psychiatric disorder or a sickness in 1973. This decision was after many years of struggle from the gay and lesbian liberation movement. EPA finally declared that being attracted to people of the same sex is a natural variation of the human experience and it does not make anyone any less of a healthy functioning human being. So, in 1973, the American Psychiatric Association removed the diagnosis of homosexuality from the second edition of its Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. This resulted after comparing competing theories, those that pathologized homosexuality and those that viewed it as normal. The ABCs of the LGBTQIA+. So, the first letters of LGBTQIA+ deals with sexual identity. So, LGB can be broken down into lesbian, gay, and bisexual. So, let's explore the meaning of these different terms. So, first, we have lesbian. So, lesbian are women who are emotionally and sexually attracted to women. So, kung maingon tag lesbian, ang lesbian is only attracted towards the same sex. So, ma-attract ra sila only pod sa ilang kapareha. Kay, ang lesbian kay babae man, so, ma-attract ra sila sa babae mismo. Second, we have gay. So, gay are men who are emotionally and sexually attracted to men. So, gays are homosexual person or those attracted to same gender. So, parehara po din siya sa lesbian. Kaso, ang gay lamang is ma-attracted siya sa lalaki rapod mismo. Ang lesbian, ma-attract siya sa babae rapod mismo. So, third, we have bisexual. So, bisexual are man or woman who are emotionally and sexually attracted to men or women. So, ang bisexual is ma-attract siya sa babae or sa lalaki. Unlike sa lesbian o gay, di ba ang lesbian is ma-attract siya sa babae, o niya ang gay is ma-attract po siya sa lalaki. Ang bisexual is lahi. Ma-attract siya both gender. The T defined. So, the T in LGBTQIA+ can have several different meanings but typically deals with gender identity. So, T stands for transgender. So, transgender is when your gender identity or how you feel is different from your physical sex or male or female. So this term is for someone that identifies as a different gender than what was assigned on their birth certificate. For example, a transgender woman lives as a woman today, but was thought to be male when she was born. O, diba? And also a transgender man lives a man today but was thought to be female when he was born. So some transgender people identify as neither male nor female or as a combination of male and female. Queer. Used by people who celebrate all gender identities. Nagamit ko nun ni sa mga tao nga ka-celebrate sa tanan gender identities. So, dili ra ingon nga para ra ni o dili siya restricted na para ra sa lesbian, para sa gay or para BI kundi tanan. So kay di ba sa LGBT is naay nadugang na mga kuan acronyms. So kana sila tanan na kuan na terms is kana sila tanan na identities is ginagamit sa queer like LGBTQIA+. O di ba mao na sila tanan. So we have intersex. Intersex are people who were born with sex genitals or chromosomes patterns that do not fit the typical male or female body. O like for example, sa babae, a clitoris that's larger than expected. Sa lalaki po, a penis that's smaller than expected. So dili siya typical nga para sa babae o sa lalaki nga lawas. So we have asexual or ally. Asexual are people who do not feel sexual attraction to anyone. So, mauni sila ang kuan na dili jud sila maka-feel og sexual attraction towards men or women. Sunod, dili pud sila ka-feel og romantic attraction in the typical way. Allies are straight or heterosexual people who are fighting for LGBT rights. So, mauni sila ang nag-support o nagarali even though dili sila ma-identify sa, even though wala sila sa dili sila na-appear sa community sa LGBTQIA+, kay straight man sila. Knowledge on the human sexuality is still evolving, so there are many terms that pops up. So here are a few more to help us become more inclusive. First, we have androgynous. So, androgynous is a people whose gender expression or their physical appearance or may not be distinctly male or female. So, Those are people that describes people who exhibit both male and female characteristics, and androgynous consider themselves both genders although not necessarily in equal parts. Second, we have gender. So gender, your internal sense of being masculine or feminine or neither. In gender, women generally expected to dress in typically feminine ways and be polite. And also, in gender, men are generally expected to be strong, aggressive, and bold. So, in gender identity, it's all about how you feel, man, woman, or neither. So, for example, in gender identity is being transgender. So, being transgender is about an individual's gender identity, whether they feel male, female, a little of both, or neither. Gender expression. Gender expression is how you feel your sense of being male or female or neither, maybe through hairstyle, clothes, and etc. So, gender expression, it refers to the way that a person presents their gender to the world. And the example is how a person dresses can be a form of gender expression. Sexual orientation is your emotional and sexual attraction to a person. So, the example for that is being gay, lesbian, or bisexual is about an individual's sexual orientation, in which is our sexual or romantic attraction to people of the same gender, different genders, both or neither. So, sex assigned at birth. It is your given sex when you're born based on your sex organs. Also, sex assigned at birth is a label that you're given at birth. It's either male or female based on medical factors including your hormones, chromosomes, and genetics. Cisgender. It is when your gender identity matches with the sex you are assigned at birth. So, for example, is a cisgender woman is someone who still identifies with the sex female. So, in this case, a doctor assigned them at birth. Non-binary. Those are people who do not feel like a boy or a girl. They maybe feel like they are both or neither. So sometimes they use the pronouns they, them, and their. So the example is some people have a gender blends elements of being a man or a woman or a gender that is different than either male or female. So and also some people don't identify with any gender. So that's an example of non-binary.